up and all this stuff, and I don't know, I just got mad and then hit him, and then I killed him.
5, from riots starting over a cookie to riots planned so well you'd think they were in a movie, correction officers have had to deal with some bizarre cases of robbery. You'd think some of their stories are actually made up because of how unbelievable they are, but luckily it's all been caught on surveillance cam. Are you ready for some jaw-dropping footage? If you are, keep watching because we have got some seriously wild stuff for you today. 1. California prison riot. Take a closer look at the uniforms and insignias. This is unmistakably a California state prison. This clip offers a raw glimpse into the intense chaos California correctional officers sometimes endure. This particular riot ignited after a group, known as Northerners, retaliated against another group called the Woods. The tension stemmed from an earlier incident where a Northerner was forcefully thrown off a tier. This clash had been brewing for roughly 8 months, primarily due to the prolonged lockdown conditions that left frustrations boiling over. 3. New Mexico jail riot. In this intense scene, correctional officers resorted to tactical measures to subdue rebellious inmates. A flashbang device, designed to disorient individuals with light and noise, was deployed through a slot in the door. While one officer pressed his foot over the opening, another braced himself by covering his ears. The resulting explosion sent inmates scrambling. The footage, captured from above, reveals officers equipped with shields, gas masks, and specialized weapons to counter riots. The tactical support unit stepped in after corrections. Staff struggled to compel 9 detainees to return to their cells. Without audio, the visuals show inmates preparing for confrontation, removing their shirts and wrapping them around their faces as improvised masks. As the tactical team arrived, a standoff ensued at the door's narrow slot. Inmates pushed blankets and powder through the gap, while officers tried inserting the barrel of a gun to launch another flashbang. After several rounds of explosive devices, officers managed to breach the area. Inside, the scene was chaotic. Water flooded the floor, a microwave lay shattered, and the air was thick with irritants. Inmates pleaded for fresh air, while guards, coughing from the fumes, worked to regain control and escort detainees out in handcuffs. 4. Queensland prison violence. Prison violence in Queensland has reached unprecedented levels, with nearly 3,000 assaults documented in the last fiscal year. This shocking footage highlights the brutal reality of life behind bars. In one clip, filmed at Maryborough, a single prisoner is ambushed by 3 others while casually conversing on a staircase. The victim is brutally beaten until he collapses, unconscious. The attackers leave him motionless on the steps, and astonishingly, other inmates stroll by as if nothing has happened. 5. 1990s Pelican Bay riot. Chaos erupted at Kern Valley State Prison one fine Wednesday afternoon when a violent clash among inmates turned crazy. 23-year-old Oscar Cruz, a Los Angeles native, lost his life after being stabbed 4 times. Cruz, identified as a gang member serving a 37-year sentence for robbery and firearm use, was one of several targets in this riot. Authorities confiscated 4 improvised weapons made by inmates, including the one responsible for Cruz's fatal wounds. 3 other inmates also suffered stab wounds during the melee. Correctional officers used everything from pepper spray to rubber bullets in their efforts to quell the violence. When those methods failed, they resorted to using lethal rounds to restore order. 6. Arkansas jail riot. Inmates at Arkansas's Crawford County Jail orchestrated a riot that left the facility in disarray and led to further charges for 5 individuals. Sheriff Ron Brown explained that the unrest began with an inmate temporarily housed there for a court appearance. Other inmates collaborated to obstruct security footage by covering the cameras with wet toilet paper. Body cameras worn by responding officers captured much of the chaos. The inmates caused significant damage by ripping out sprinkler systems, flooding the floors with 2 inches of water, tearing apart mattresses, and damaging ceiling tiles. Despite the destruction, no injuries were reported among officers or inmates. The the incident required assistance from multiple agencies, including Arkansas State Police and local police departments from Alma and Van Buren. 7. Another Pelican Bay riot. This footage documents yet another riot at Pelican Bay State Prison. The violent incident took place in the year 2000, showcasing the high tensions that often permeate this maximum security facility. To no one's surprise, it will come up in this list again. 8. Cook County stabbing. A fierce altercation at Cook County Jail in Chicago left 5 inmates injured, some with stab wounds. Cook County Jail, one of the largest detention centers in the U.S., houses approximately 9,000 prisoners. The footage, released by the Cook County Sheriff's Office, shows a minute and 20 seconds of fighting before authorities intervened. Multiple weapons were recovered at the scene, including 2 fashioned from inhalers. While the injuries included puncture wounds, none were life-threatening. 9. Violence in maximum security. Sources indicate that members of the Latin Kings were behind the attacks captured in this video. 11. Rowdy inmate. A shocking incident at Los Angeles County's Twin Towers Jail has led to hate crime and assault charges against a 29-year-old inmate, Arnulfo Meza. The altercation occurred when Meza asked to use the restroom, prompting a jail employee to release his left hand from a waist chain. As the 54-year-old staff member handed him toilet paper, Meza suddenly launched a surprise attack, striking her in the face and causing her to fall. He followed up with 2 more punches before stopping. After the assault, Meza calmly sat back on a gurney, allowing deputies to escort him to a secure area. The injured employee was hospitalized, and authorities have announced plans to charge Meza with both assault and a hate crime. 12. Fight over cookies. A trivial disagreement spiraled into chaos when a man named Deshawn confronted another inmate, Stokes, over an unpaid cookie deal. Deshawn had given Stokes 5 cookies as part of their arrangement, but Stokes refused to honor his end of the bargain. The tension escalated when a third inmate, Dallas, attempted to support Deshawn. Instead of resolving the conflict, Stokes turned his anger on Dallas, prompting Deshawn to react defensively. What followed was an unexpected and intense altercation that surprised everyone involved. 13. South Carolina jail brutality. The tragic story of Jamal Sutherland, a 31-year-old black man detained at a South Carolina jail, sheds light on excessive force in correctional facilities. Sutherland had been arrested on January 4th after officers responded to a reported fight at a mental health and substance abuse center. On the morning of his court hearing, Sutherland refused repeated orders to leave his cell and be handcuffed. Surveillance, body camera, and cell phone footage revealed deputies describing him as aggressive and preparing to use force. Despite Sutherland's calm stance, deputies opened the cell door and deployed pepper spray, ordering him to lie down. Seated on the floor, Sutherland questioned their actions, asking, "What is the meaning of this?" A deputy entered to cuff him, but the situation escalated when stun guns were used. Sutherland screamed in pain as he was shocked multiple times, even while electrodes were still attached to his body. Pinned to the ground with a knee on his back, Sutherland pleaded that he wasn't resisting and later gasped that he couldn't breathe. Eventually, he was handcuffed and lifted into a wheelchair, appearing unresponsive. The disturbing footage has raised significant questions about the use of force and the handling of individuals in mental health crises. 14. Scary prison bully. Inside the jail, a prisoner named Alan becomes increasingly anxious about a new inmate, Rue, whose intimidating presence has everyone on edge. Known for extorting commissary items from others, Rue's actions heighten an already tense atmosphere shaped by gang rivalries and power struggles. Alan, concerned for his safety, chooses to prioritize his well-being over material possessions, fearing what Rue might do if challenged. However, another inmate, Bucci, seems unaware of the threat Rue poses and unwisely places himself in harm's way. 15. Planned attack. 7 inmates now face additional charges after a violent assault on 2 corrections officers at the Southern New Mexico Correctional Facility. The incident unfolded just after a nurse completed her medication rounds. Surveillance footage reveals a group of inmates loitering near a pod door before chaos erupted. The confrontation spilled into a nearby hallway where one officer was overwhelmed, enduring kicks from multiple inmates simultaneously. At one point, 5 attackers were focused on him alone. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the officer managed to get back on his feet and fight back. Meanwhile, another officer faced a separate assault involving 2 inmates, which quickly escalated as more joined in. The situation was eventually brought under control when additional officers arrived and deployed tear gas. Yes, it really had to get that serious. 16. Another brutal jail beating. This footage from a brutal assault in a Halifax prison was presented during the trial of the inmate responsible for the vicious attack. The video revealed the extent of the violence that led to the guilty verdict. 17. Fighting back. One inmate, tired of living in fear, decided to confront the pod's most feared bully. While his attempt at resistance was bold, the outcome was predictably grim. 18. Featherstone prison fight. Shocking footage from HMP Featherstone captures a chaotic scene where inmates engaged in a brawl reminiscent of a fight club. At Featherstone, it's quite common for prisoners to get into debt for weed, and it usually devolves into a fight no matter how small the debt. Weed has messed up the prison system. 19. Women's prison. Horrifying accounts emerged after a violent episode at the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women, where corrections officers in riot gear allegedly brutalized inmates. One woman reported suffering a concussion after being repeatedly punched, while another endured a fractured orbital bone. A third inmate claimed to have broken her arm and was sexually assaulted during aggressive cell extractions. At least 3 others have come forward with similar allegations. These disturbing events have led to criminal charges against 10 officers at the troubled New Jersey facility. 20. Freeing Syrian prisoners. In an extraordinary operation on December 7, 2024, rebel forces successfully liberated Homs military prison in Syria, freeing over 3,500 detainees. Hassan Abdel Ghani, a leading commander of the rebel coalition, announced the achievement via telegram, declaring that their forces had entered Homs and begun clearing the city's neighborhoods. The footage captures the moment prisoners were freed, marking a significant milestone in the ongoing conflict. Captured here is the dramatic footage of convicted murderer Danilo Cavalcante making a daring escape from Chester County Prison. The video shows Cavalcante performing an acrobatic maneuver, using both his arms and legs to climb a yard wall with remarkable agility. Once he reached the roof, he encountered multiple layers of razor wire, posing additional challenges to his escape plan. Authorities provided updates on the ongoing 7-day manhunt to track him down. As the search intensified, the reward for information leading to his capture surged to $20,000. 22. Homemade knife. This footage reveals the harrowing moment when 2 correctional officers at New Mexico State Penitentiary in Santa Fe were violently attacked by inmates wielding a homemade knife. During a routine cell inspection, officers Joe Martinez and Lorenzo Martinez were subjected to a pat-down search. Unfortunately, Officer Rico missed detecting the concealed knife during his search. Moments later, the inmates launched their attack, with one stabbing Rico in the head multiple times, leaving him unconscious. Officer Yara quickly responded with pepper spray to subdue the attackers. While most inmates followed protocol by lying on their stomachs during the chaos, 2 refused, prompting a third officer to use beanbag rounds to force compliance. 23. Arizona. Officer attacked. Caught on surveillance video, 2 inmates at Pinal County Sheriff's Adult Detention Center launched a surprise attack on an officer. The incident began when the officer entered a common recreation area within the cell block. 2 inmates followed closely behind and suddenly started punching him in the face and body. The officer fought back, defending himself until backup arrived. Another officer quickly intervened, leading to a tense and chaotic scene. 24. Teens in prison. This footage offers a glimpse into life inside a high-security juvenile prison, where teenage inmates are confined to their cells for 23 hours daily, with just 1 hour of recreation time. The boredom and isolation often weigh heavily on the teens, some of whom land in the segregation unit due to fighting, assaulting staff, or requesting protection from threats in the general population. The raw scenes captured on camera serve as a clear warning to not mess up. No one can handle these harsh realities of incarceration, especially young people. The toll it takes on their mental and emotional well-being is clear in these clips. 25. Maximum security life. Step inside the daily grind of a maximum security juvenile prison through this unfiltered footage. The clips reveal the mundane moments of card games played in cells, the deafening noise of the isolation unit, and the structured routine described by the prison superintendent. Housing up to 400 young offenders sentenced by the courts, this facility showcases the balance of boredom and tension that defines life behind bars for these teens. 27. El Salvador Mega Prison. A striking scene unfolds as around 2,000 inmates, shaved bald and dressed only in shorts, are transferred to what has been dubbed El Salvador's Mega Prison. The facility, newly constructed and touted as the largest in the Americas, can hold up to 40,000 inmates. This development is part of an aggressive crime-fighting strategy spearheaded by the country's government. However, the campaign has drawn criticism from human rights groups, who report that innocent individuals have been swept up in the mass arrests. Dozens of detainees, they claim, have lost their lives while in police custody. The crackdown began after a surge in taking lives linked to gang violence prompted the president to request emergency powers from Congress. Constitutional rights were temporarily suspended, allowing arrests without warrants, limiting access to legal representation, and permitting government surveillance of private communications. Since then, authorities have detained approximately 64,000 individuals, and the rate at which people are losing their lives has plummeted by 57%, which is beyond shocking. 28. Medical riot. Chaos erupted in a detention facility after frustrations boiled over regarding unmet medical needs. The situation reportedly began when an individual's request for a medical evaluation for a non-urgent condition went unanswered. The government's policy on addressing detainees' pre-existing health conditions focuses on life-threatening emergencies. For severe cases, such as extreme dehydration causing kidney failure, detainees are transported to a hospital. However, this facility primarily houses individuals awaiting deportation, and long-term care for minor ailments isn't provided. Outrage over the lack of medical attention led detainees to riot, causing extensive damage. They destroyed barracks, flooded areas, and even breached walls, leaving the facility in disarray. 29. Hamilton County. Escape. Security footage captures the bold escapes of Melissa Cordell and George Bridewell from the Hamilton County Justice Center, both exploiting lapses in jail procedures to slip away unnoticed. On June 8th, Cordell was awaiting booking when she noticed an opportunity. While on a phone call, she tested a half door and found it unlocked. Wasting no time, she slipped through into the property area. To avoid detection, she concealed herself behind a pole and wall, quickly removed her inmate uniform, and blended in with other detainees. Wearing only the tank top she had on when she entered, she walked out alongside released inmates after a clerk returned their belongings. Just 12 days later, on June 20th, Bridewell executed a similar escape. He was in a holding area, awaiting arraignment, while a deputy was releasing inmates from cells. Pretending to be part of the group, Bridewell moved toward the processing area. Although the deputy noticed his name wasn't on the list and directed him back, a distraction provided the perfect cover. Public defenders requested the cell door be reopened to retrieve information, and Bridewell seized the moment, leaving the holding area unnoticed. Once in the release process, Bridewell mingled with other detainees and walked out with them, bypassing all security measures. Both inmates were eventually recaptured, but their escapes have sparked serious concerns about the jail's security protocols and oversight. 30. Prisoner's chilling confession. Convicted killer Stephen Sanderson made a haunting confession at the Saginaw Correctional Facility in Freeland. Sanderson admitted to taking the life of his cellmate.
I told him that's enough, I don't want to hear anymore. I first, punched him a couple times.
Who had been imprisoned for crimes against vulnerable children.
Still kept telling me he wanted to explain that he didn't do it, that he was being set up and all this stuff, and I don't know, I just got mad and then hit him and then I killed him.
31. Inhumane Isolation Unit. In Sacramento, California, lawmakers are addressing a heated debate about the use of special security units to segregate thousands of inmates from the general prison population. Civil rights advocates argue that prolonged isolation in these units amounts to torture, while corrections officials defend them as necessary and humane. There are 4 such facilities across the state, known as security housing units, with the most contentious being at Pelican Bay State Prison in Crescent City. Journalists using a small wall-mounted camera captured a rare glimpse of life inside these units. The footage shows an inmate exercising with a rubber handball in a stark concrete yard, a concession allowed only in recent years. Outside this brief period of activity, the inmate spends all hours, day and night, confined alone in a small cell. Skylights provide minimal natural light, but there are no windows to the outside world. 32. Escapee lies to a cop. This video features a jaw-dropping encounter where escaped federal inmate Richard Lee McNair cleverly deceives a police officer.
No, that's not the problem right now. What's your address? I don't have an address.
Posing as a casual jogger, McNair tries to convince the officer of his fabricated story to try and get away from what could be his immediate capture.
Yeah. No, it's short hair. My guy's got skin cut hair. He's got a beard, a goatee like.
34. Parkour prison break. Now, to take a small break from the serious, this is what it would look like if prisoners were all taught parkour. They would escape in no time. 35. Shirley Prison Riot. Footage from the P1 unit at the Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center in Shirley, Massachusetts, reveals a riot that spiraled out of control. What began as a minor dispute over showers turned into a full-blown uprising. The tension started earlier in the day when 2 inmates from different cell blocks exchanged punches while passing each other in the exercise yard. When yard time ended, officers chose to lock them up without allowing showers, a decision that sparked outrage among the inmates. The situation escalated quickly as prisoners refused to return to their cells, leading to widespread unrest. Within hours, the facility was overrun, and officers were forced to evacuate, leaving inmates in control for 3 chaotic hours. 36. Lewis Prison Riot. Surveillance footage from Lewis Prison in Buckeye, Arizona, shows a violent attack on 2 correctional officers. Initially, 2 inmates launched the assault, but they're soon joined by 7 others. Moments later, the group briefly disappears from view, only to re-emerge, charging up the stairs in unison. 40. Freedom at last. Now, after all of that, here's a raw video to show you what it looks like when you're finally released from prison. What was your favorite footage? Comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Goodbye.